You opened Queen 10 here in the cutoff, and you got called by a 2017 tag on the button. Flopped an open-ender. Great spot for c-betting, of course. And you do bet and get called, and we turn the nuts. Great spot to be in. I would just keep betting. I don't think this is a great spot for check raising. I'm not saying, it's not saying it's terrible. You have the nuts, so you can do basically whatever you want as long as you don't fold. I'm just saying I do think that if he has the hands that the more likely types of hands that he has, for example, if he has ace queen, for example, if you check raise him here, you might actually get him to fold that type of hand. Whereas if he does just have a really strong hand here like 2 pair or whatever, you're going to get that stack anyways if you bet this turn because he could raise us. So but you can keep in those ace queens just by betting. So I do like just continuing to bet and not check raising. He does fold pretty quickly. Probably didn't have very much of a hand. Looks like you're going to play this hand on table 2. Folds to the button, who opens to... Ooh, look at that. He opened into 5x, a 43-4. Interesting spot, because this guy has only opened maybe 1 or 2 hands prior to this, and now he's going to 5x. I obviously do think you should continue. I would not 3-bet it. I think that much is clear, just based on how little he's actually opening himself. I think he has a reasonable hand here, and I do think that you should tend to give him a little bit of credit here post-flop on marginal flops. Flop comes 7-3-9. That does favor you a little bit more than him, but I wouldn't be looking to donk, and I would not be looking to check raise. I would probably just look to check call on this flop, and I don't actually do that often post-flop in these spots, but I actually do think that that's probably the safest bet here. He actually checks it back really quickly, and we turn a set, so awesome news. Time to start betting. I think you should bet bigger here than smaller, because I think his range for calling is still quite wide. For example, this type of player could easily show up here with a hand like ace-queen or ace-king, except they won't fold it, especially if there's a spade. And they might not even fold it, even if they don't have a spade, just trying to hit their queen or their ace. So I definitely think you should go bigger here, closer to pot, much closer to pot than closer to half pot. So I would go like 4 or something. I think this is too small. He does call very quickly, and I don't think you're going to get I don't think he's got very much here when he calls that fast. He might have just had a big spade. Maybe he has, but that would be my most likely guess for what he has. I think you should bet smaller now on the river because of that. I think his calling range is probably not that wide. So if I was you, I would even consider betting maybe half pot. Maybe even a touch under half pot, because if you just pound this for 750, I'll be surprised if he calls. You do bet, you do bet about 2/3 and he folds. I think you bet too big there. Based on the timing tells, I would be and how he played the hand, it's much more likely he has a hand like ace king, ace queen, or something like that. And so if you're gonna bet that river, then I suggest trying to bet an amount that actually targets a call from that hand. And it's not impossible. He will call some amount with those hands. If it's 1/3 of the pot, if it's 1/4 of the pot, whatever it is, if you know that he won't, if that's where you put him at, what do you have to bet to get called by those hands? So I think you bet too much there. I am going to have to wrap up this video soon, so let's see if we can get into any more types of hands. Maybe one more hand, and then I'll wrap this up. But this has been a good video. I overall played pretty well. I do think there are some spots we could touch up on, but overall I thought played well. What's going on with this King 10? Did I miss pre-flop? Hold on, let's back this up. Okay, looks like there was 2 limps, and we isolated King 10 from the big blind, and we did get 2 calls. I tend to ISO a little bit tighter than some people in these spots. I probably don't ISO King 10, but I would have ISO'd Ace 10. I probably would have ISO'd King Jack suited, but probably not King 10. So this is right at the top of my just checking range, and right at the very bottom of my ISO raising range. You do decide to ISO it, and you do get 2 calls. Personally, I think you should have c-bet this flop. Even though it's into 2 fish, This is just a really great board for you to c-bet, and I think that your hand actually does have some amount of equity versus their calling range, more than against two just random players. Against two fish, I think you do have some equity here. So I would have c-bet this board.